Your mom might be a breakfast in bed kind of person, or a let's have brunch as a family kind of person. No matter what kind of mom you've got this Mother's Day, these recipes are gonna fit her wants, needs, desires, show your love. Oh, so many things.
A lot of people go out to the buffet on Mother's Day, but I say, why not bring the buffet to mom? Then it is Mother's Day after all, and Mother's Day means love. So we're gonna put some love in these treats. Mom, 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 Mother's Day. These are for you, Mom. Enjoy.
This Mama's Little Monkey bread is perfect if you want to surprise your mom with breakfast in bed. It's all easy, quick, piece it together, and in less than an hour, you can deliver a hot treat to your mom in bed. So let's start by making some of our filling pieces. So I have a cup of macadamia nuts here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take them and I'm going to chop them into some smaller pieces. Some of these are rough chopped from the factory, so we're going to make them a little smaller. Alright, so now I have my macadamia nuts cut into smaller, more manageable pieces. So now I'm going to put them back in my bowl. Oops. And now to that, I'm going to add a 1/4 cup of dehydrated cranberries and a 1/4 cup of gold raisins. And when I do this, I'm just going to take my hands and stir them and mix them all together. So I've got this combination going because this is by far my mom's favorite types of things as mix-in. She loves cranberry, she loves macadamia nuts, so this will be a great filling for our monkey bread for Mother's Day. So now I'm going to get my cinnamon and sugar ready. I'm going to grab a large plastic bag, and to that I'm going to add my sugar and a teaspoon of cinnamon. And it doesn't matter, there's a lot of varieties of cinnamon. I'm using Vietnamese cinnamon for this one because I think it's a little bit sweeter. So now I'm going to stir it all up like that. So I've got my nice little dusting. And now I'm just going to prop it open and have it ready steady. Because my next step is going to be taking just these tubed rolls or I guess they're biscuits. And I'm going to open them up. And these are the smaller biscuits. And because they are the smaller biscuits, oh no, these always make me nervous. There we go. Because they're the smaller biscuits, what I'm going to do is pull them out of the can. And I'm going to use actually 4 cans of these. And because they're the smaller biscuits, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take them and I'm going to cut them in half. And it doesn't have to be exact. You don't have to measure it by any means. Just going to take them and slice them in half. And now that I've got about half of the tube sliced in half, I'm going to take them and throw them into my plastic bag. And now I'm going to grab it and I'm going to shake them around just like that. And I have a bundt pan that I've already greased. So now I'm going to take my little pieces and I'm going to start scattering them around the bottom of my pan. And they kind of look like little mini donuts almost. And it's a lot what the flavor's like. So now I don't have to worry about cleaning my hands off because everything's going to go back in to that bag. So I'm just going to slice these all up in half again. Drop it in. And I'm just going to keep doing my shaking. This is super easy. Okay, so I've got 1 tube done. I'm going to do another tube, and then I'll show you how to add in our fruit and nut filling. So now I've got 2 of my 4 rolls of biscuits cut, cinnamoned, and sugared. So now I'm going to bring this buddy back into the mix. So I'm going to grab some handfuls and I'm just going to sprinkle it around and let the fruit and nuts fall in. So I want about half of it. So now that I've got that covered, it looks just like that. So now I'm going to do the same thing where I slice up my next 2 cans of biscuits, put on my fruit filling, and then I'll show you what our final top looks like. So I have all of my biscuits, my sugar, my cinnamon, my fruit, my nuts, all packed into my bundt pan. So now I'm going to make my topping, or my bottom once it's flipped out. So I have 3/4 of a stick of butter melted, and I have 1 cup of brown sugar. So I'm going to combine that all together. And now I'm going to stir it up all nice. And I want all of my sugar to dissolve into my butter. It won't take too terribly long. Alrighty, and now I'm just going to pour it around the top. And remember, because I have that bundt pan, I want to be really careful so I don't pour my butter through the hole in the middle of the pan. So now I have everything coated with buttery goodness, and now I'm going to put it into a 350-degree oven for about a half an hour, and then we'll take a look at it. So now our monkey bread's been out of the oven for about 10 minutes. It's time to flip it out of the pan. So I'm going to get a tray, and I want to make sure there's a little edge on it because there's probably going to be some cinnamony, caramely goodness that oozes out. So I'm going to put this on top, and now I'm going to awkwardly flip it over without breaking everything. And now, let's see how hot it is. Well, it's not too terrible. Whoop! And now, I've got a delicious cranberry, golden raisin, macadamia nut, cinnamon, sugar, everything kind of monkey bread. So this is definitely something that my mom is going to love. This tart's great if you are looking for some fruit, if you're looking for that dessert vibe. It's tart, but not tart, but it's called a tart. So we're going to take the easy way out, and we're going to take some pie crust that was made for us, and we're going to open that up, and I'm going to take and get it out of that little tube, and I'm going to unroll it gently, and I'm going to then nestle it into my tart pan. So I'm going to unroll, and then I'm going to gently lay it over my tart pan. And when I press it in, I want to be a little gentle with it. Don't worry about getting it into all of the little ripples around the edge. The first thing we want to do is get a nice smooth bottom by getting it lined up as best as we can. And now that I've gone all the way around, now I'm going to take my fingers and I'm going to go and I'm going to smush it in to all of the fluted edge. And now that I've got it all lined up on the edge, I'm just going to take and pinch it over the top. And when I do that, all of the extra is going to fall away because of the edge on my tart pan. And when I do this, I'll get a nice crisp edge. If you want to, you could be really fancy and you could go around and make sure it's all nice and even by trimming it with a knife, but I think that does a pretty good job on its own. So I'll lay my scrap to the side, and now I'm actually going to take a piece of tin foil and I'm going to gently press it into my pan, because before we can fill this tart, I need to bake it in the oven. So I'm going to take some beans. These are just dried beans that you get in bulk at the grocery store, and I'm going to pour them into the middle of my tart. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to bake this for 425 degrees for 8 minutes. When the timer rings at the 8-minute mark, I'm going to take out my beans, I'm going to take out the tin foil, and then I'm going to bake it for another 4 or 5 minutes until the crust gets a nice golden color. When I take the beans out, I don't have to throw them away. I can use them and use them and use them and use them. until I don't want to use them anymore. So we'll bake it and then we'll be back to make the filling.
We have a big problem and we need your help.
It's happening on college campuses, at bars, at parties, even in high schools.
It's happening to our sisters and our daughters,
our wives and our friends.
It's called sexual assault, and it has to stop.
We have to stop it. So listen up.
If she doesn't consent, or if she can't consent, it's rape, it's assault.
It's a crime. It's wrong.
If I saw it happening, I was taught you have to do something about it.
If I saw it happening, I speak up.
If I saw it happening, I'd never blame her. I'd help her.
Because I don't want to be a part of the problem.
I want to be a part of the solution.
We need all of you to be part of the solution. This is about respect. It's about responsibility.
It's up to all of us to put an end to sexual assault. And that starts with you.
Because one is too many.
So our tart is cooling, so we're going to now make our custard filling, and it's kind of like an almond pudding that's going to go into the middle. So in order to do that, I'm going to take all of my ingredients and I'm going to combine them. So I'm going to start with 2 cups of milk. To that, I am going to add 4 eggs, 3/4 of a cup of sugar, and 1/4 cup of flour. I'm then going to take and I'm going to break apart my egg yolks. Now that I have that all broken down, I'm just going to start slowly stirring it. And I'm going to cook this at a medium to start with. All right, so I've got a good chunk of my flour broken down. That'll be the one that's kind of the lumpiest. And now I actually have an immersion blender, which is a blender at the bottom, and I can put it right into this liquid. And because this stirs so quickly, normally if I would just do this by hand, it would take 5 or 6 minutes on the stove, and I would have to do it at a nice low and slow temperature, but because this beats so quickly, I can actually bump this up to high now. All right, so now that we're in the final stages, I've got my nice custard base, so I'm gonna turn this off. I'm gonna come back with my almond extract, and I'm gonna stir that in. Like I said, this is that thick pudding-like texture, so we know we've got it right. So now I'm gonna get my cooled tart shell, I'm gonna pour that in and level it off, and we'll see what it looks like once it's all in there. I finished my almond custard and I filled up my tart. I've already taken it out of the tart pan. To make sure it's nice and set, it went into the refrigerator for 4 hours because I wanted that pudding/custard to be perfect in there. So now we're gonna top it all off. And to do that, we're gonna use nectarines. So I'm going to slice my nectarine open. Whoa! Once I get the next half open, I'm now going to take it and I'm going to cut it into different wedges. And to do that, whenever I cut with a knife, I want to pull my fingers back like that so I'm protecting them. And I've got my knuckles then as a guard. And if you take your time to do that, you're not going to hurt yourself. And now those wedges just get tossed into my bowl. Now that I have my wedges cut, I'm just going to start working my way around the edges. And I'm going to overlap my nectarines. So I'll work on covering this up and we'll come back in just a second.
As a rural EMT, I've heard all of the excuses for not calling 911 at the first sign of stroke.
It's probably nothing. I can't afford an ambulance ride.
I don't want to create a scene.
But stroke can happen to anyone at any time.
Remember to act fast. If someone's face, arm, or speech is drifting, then time is of the essence.
Please call 911.
It's better to be safe than sorry.
So I have my tart totally covered in my nectarines, but if I were just to let this be, the nectarines would start to discolor when I have their skin broken, they're exposed to the air. So what I did is I took some honey and I put it in the microwave for 30 seconds so it's more liquid in consistency. And I'm just going to take and holding that, I'm going to brush it over the tops of each of the wedges of nectarines. Because that way, as it seals up, and I want to be gentle with this, as it seals up, it will protect the color of the nectarines. Once I have this totally covered with my honey, this item is ready for the brunch buffet. This Frenchish braid bread is perfect for Mother's Day. One of the funniest memories I have with my mom is her trying to figure out how to French braid my hair for band in high school. She'd never done it before, and it got there eventually. So in order to get it started, we need 6 tablespoons of warm water, which I have in this bowl, and then to it I'm going to start proofing my yeast, which means I'm getting it ready to have my bread up and running. So I'm going to put in my yeast. This is 1.5 teaspoons. To that, I'm going to feed my yeast to get it blooming. So I have 1 teaspoon of sugar. It needs the sugar to start eating, and 1/4 cup of flour. So once I get that all in my bowl together, if you don't do the stirring part, the yeast won't get up and running, so make sure you do that. Now when you do this, it's going to get kind of a pasty consistency, so you know you're on the right track when it kind of looks like a bowl of boogers. Actually, that would be a gross cold. I hope your boogers don't look like this. Now I have it all stirred together, so I'm just going to take a towel, I'm going to lay it over the top, and I'm going to let it sit for 15 minutes so that the yeast can do its business. So after 15 minutes, we get this lovely sludgy little puddle of yeast. So I'm going to start by adding that to my mixer. And you know it's done when it's all frothy and foamy. And I'm just going to scrape it down to get all that yeasty goodness, because that's what's going to make my bread rise. And to my yeast, now I'm going to go through and I'm going to add some more of my liquid ingredients. So the first thing I have is 6 tablespoons of sour cream. So I'll start by plopping that in. Then my next item that I'm going to add is an egg. My next thing I'm going to add is my butter. I want 1/2 stick in there. And so now I have all of these liquidy bits for the most part. There's one other liquid, but that one will come a little later. I'm going to stir these up all together. And now as this is mixing, I'm going to add 1/4 cup of sugar. I'm going to add some salt, 1 teaspoon. And now my next one that I'm going to add is 2 1/4 cups of flour. And I'm actually going to add it all at once. And I'm going to start it slow so it doesn't poof. And as it starts to mix together, I'm going to add 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. And when it looks like it's starting to settle, I'm going to speed it up a little bit. That way I can avoid the poof. And now, you know it's time to do a switch over when you have some little chunky flecks like that, and then you also have some sloppy bits right around the mixer paddle, because that lets me know that it's time to scrape it all off. And after I have most of it all scraped down, I'm actually going to switch out my mixer blade. So now I'm switching over to a dough hook, because this is actually going to start to make bread dough. I'm going to let it run for 5 or 6 minutes, and when that is ready, then I have this big greased bowl that I'm going to switch the dough over into. The reason for that is this. This dough, when it's ready, it's going to sit for 90 minutes, so 1.5 hours, and I want it covered up with a towel. So I'm going to turn it into a nice ball of dough, plop it in, cover it up, and I'll be back in 1.5 hours.
Operator 901, where's the emergency?
127 Brymere.
Okay, what's going on there?
I'd like to order a pizza for delivery.
Ma'am, you've reached 911. This is an emergency line.
Large with half pepperoni, half mushrooms.
You know you've called 911. This is an emergency line.
Do you know how long it'll be?
Okay, ma'am, is everything okay over there? Do you have an emergency or not?
Yes.
And you're unable to talk because...
Right.
Is there someone in the room with you? Just say yes or no.
Yes.
Okay, it looks like I have an officer about a mile from your location. Are there any weapons in your house?
No.
Can you stay on the phone with me?
No. See you soon. Thank you.
So my dough's been resting for 90 minutes and I've got a lot of flour on my countertop. I need a lot of flour because this dough starts out pretty sticky. So I'm going to uncover my dough. And now I'm going to put it onto my floured surface. And because I greased up that bowl, it pops out really nicely. I've got a little flour on my hands, but I'm going to grab some, sprinkle it on the top, and just quickly roll it on my rolling pin. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep going back and forth and back and forth. And I want to get this out to be about a 10 by 15 inch square. Now that seems kind of like a random amount, but it's exactly what I need to make my braid. If you want, you can have a ruler and you can measure it all out, or I think it's best to have a cheat with you all the time. And I know that my knuckle on my pointer finger is about 1 inch long, so I'm going to do a quick check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I got to go a little wider. Now I've got a little bit of extra on the bottom, so I'm just going to grab my pizza cutter, and I'm going to move this to the side. And what I am now going to do is break this into thirds. So taking a look at this, you can eyeball it, it doesn't need to be perfect. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to gently make a cheat for myself by pressing in like this. So now I've got my cheat lines that I've just pressed in with my hand. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take and I'm going to make a cream cheese layer and a strawberry layer. I've got 1/3 cup of cream cheese. I have 2 tablespoons of sugar and flour already mixed together. And now I'm just going to take a little bit of lemon, 1 teaspoon to be exact. And, oops, overshot, we'll call that good. And now that I have all those combined, I'm going to grab my mixer, I'm going to put it in, and I'm going to fluff this all up. Now it's time to spread on my first layer. When I do that, I want to go 1, 2, and 1, 2, boop, boop. I want to keep all of my filling inside this center square right here. The reason for that is when I start braiding my bread together, I know I'm going to have a little bit ooze out. So this will protect it and keep it safe. So now I'm just going to gently start spreading it. And you can see that because this dough is so soft that sometimes it'll peel up a little bit. That's okay. Just keep going back and working your way through it. And now, as I'm starting to get it all on there, what I want to do is make sure that I've got it in kind of a nice little square. And if you wanted to, you could stop right there, but it is Mother's Day and we're putting in stuff that my mom likes. So I've got some strawberry jam. I've got about 1/2 cup of strawberry jam here. You can use a little more, a little less, but I'm just going to pour it right on top of the cream cheese. And now I'm going to work to spread it out and match my first shape that I made out of my cream cheese. And this one goes a lot faster because you have that layer in between to protect it. So now we need to work on braiding it all together. So I'm going to go back and grab my pizza cutter again. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to cut 1 inch strips on both sides. And I'm going to go up almost to my cream cheese. And then, like I said, I'm going to do it on both sides. All right, so now is when we start our braid. So I'm gonna go and I'm just gonna pull it across at an angle, just like that. And I'm gonna go to the other side and pull it across at an angle, just like that. I'm gonna keep working my way back and forth, and I'm gonna start braiding my pieces. Now, sometimes they're gonna get a little too long. You just pinch it off. And it's okay if you've got little peaks out here and there, it's no big deal. Now you wanna be really careful. If you get any strawberry or cream cheese on your fingers, you don't want it to end up on your dough on the outside. So make sure if that happens, you wipe off that finger or keep it tucked to the side. So now what I'm gonna do across my bottom, ooh, not my bottom, ugh, is I'm just gonna pinch it down a little bit with my fingers. And what I'm gonna do, so I'm gonna cut across, because remember I've got that little safe spot. And now up at the top, I'm gonna roll it across again. And now my loaf of bread is done, easy. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna transfer it over to a baking sheet. I'm gonna cover it up with my towel. We'll let it sit 50 minutes and then I'll show you how we get it ready for the oven. So it's been sitting for 50 minutes, and now it's time to put an egg wash on, and then we put it into the oven for 25 to 30 minutes at 375. So if you've never done an egg wash before, it's just one egg. You put it in a bowl, you scramble it all up, and then you paint it across the top. So like I said, egg wash 25 to 30 minutes at 375, and we'll come back with a finished loaf of bread. So now my Frenchish braid bread is out of the oven, and you can see the egg wash made it a lovely golden brown color. Now when you make this bread, you're going to be tempted to cut into it right away, but you're going to want to wait at least 15 minutes, otherwise you'll have a molten lava jam and cream cheese situation in the center. So let it sit for 15 minutes. When the time comes, you can just take a spatula, and it is more than likely, I got lucky, the front half, none of my jam leaked out, but if your jam leaks out, you're nice and safe because you have the parchment paper lining it. So I did have a little escape on the back. So now I'm going to take my flat spatula and I'm going to transfer it over to my serving tray. So now that we have our bread plated up, we can join up with our other two dishes and get ready for a Mother's Day brunch. So let's take a look at what we've got here. I think these meet my challenges pretty well. Challenge number 1, flavors my mom likes. Check, check, and check. Challenge number 2, they have to be things that were made with love, and for sure all of these things fit the bill. Anybody that has these delicious treats on Mother's Day will know that you took some time to put them together. And challenge number 3, all of these items could go on a buffet together and not compete for attention. They're all the star of the show. So remember, the apron might be optional, but the flavor isn't. So now that we're all plated up, we're ready. Your mom might be a breakfast and bread. Gonna wrap you up in a piece of bread, Mom.